What is up, guys? We are live with a new audio digest with Cameron, the DIY Hi-Fi, Ryan, Impulse Audio, and me, Toyd, also known as Nick.
I feel like it's been so long, I don't even know if anybody's going to tune in.
Everyone's gonna tune in. Hey, guys, if you're tuning in, hit a thumbs up and a like. Let us know, because today we're going to be talking about something really cool. We're going to be talking about DIY home theater. And DIY home theater is something that if you get into, you can make a home theater that will make people absolutely question how much you spent on it in a good
Oh,
way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sound is, when I was younger, somebody told me sound is half the equation. And I was like, no way, it's the image. Like, you know what I mean? It didn't seem right to me, but it didn't take long. And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, sound is half of the equation, even though it doesn't seem like it should be. And yeah, you can blow away your local theater easily if you do it right.
And you know what sells a lot of people on DIY home theater versus, just going out and buying one? An acoustically transparent wall and screen. What I mean by that is if no one sees the speakers, then all they judge is the sound. And when you get someone in that type of environment, it's crazy. Now, I had
I
built
never thought of that before.
Yeah. So I built some speakers and set them up and put them behind the acoustically transparent screen and everything, and showed this guy the opening scene of Maverick. Now, I didn't tell him what the speakers were or anything. And I wasn't the opening scene. It was actually the ending, one of the ending scenes, but like where the
Not
Bowser,
the opening scene, the closing scene.
more of the mid closing scene. Anyway, everyone knows what part I'm talking about, like where they're actually going in to do the mission. And he's watching it and he's like, oh man, this is awesome. He goes, this is so much better than what I have. He goes, I just have SVS at home. And I'm like, SVS? Like, I love SVS. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, what are these? And I'm like, I built them. And he's like, no. And I was like, yeah, I designed it all. And he couldn't believe it, but he also didn't see it. So he didn't have any reference to know that what was back there wasn't.
If it's like Durtex MDF boxes, it's really easy for your guests to go, oh yeah, nice, you made these, hey, oh cool. And then they're like, they're mentally kind of set up to be disappointed and they think it's gonna suck. But if they can't see it, I hadn't thought of that before, but it's totally true. If you have an acoustically transparent screen and it's all behind there, they're just gonna assume that you spent tens of thousands of dollars on this system.
It is interesting.
And then they'll say things like, oh, I just have an SVS system, which, by the way, I really like SVS. And if someone was like, hey, I'm not going to DIY my speakers, I would say, yeah, I like SVS. Go look at SVS. Absolutely. Huge fan.
They're beautiful too.
Like, yeah, they look really nice. Yeah.
Hard to compete with that in DIY.
Yeah.
I completely agree. So we are not talking down on them, but we also all really like JTR speakers. And I think most of us would come to the agreement, although if not, tell me, if you're doing DIY home theater, I think the place to be is high efficiency.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're, I don't know if that's controversial on this show.
You need to spend a certain amount to go that direction, I think. But, because high efficiency drivers generally cost a little more, especially if they're actually usable. But, yeah, like if you're willing to spend $500 per speaker or something, high efficiency all the way.
And by the way, guys, if you have any questions, make sure to ask them because we will answer them. I do have some already from my patrons that they asked. If you're a patron of one of these guys, make sure to do that because I know, at least for me, I like to try to tell the people the shows ahead of time. That way, if they have any questions, they can ask them. And if they don't make it, we'll make sure to answer those. But definitely, I know, Cameron, you have a Patreon, right?
No, sir. No, but I've got my chat. I've got my chat pulled up. So if anybody pops a question in mine, I'll get to it right away.
Oh, never mind. I thought you had a Patreon. I'm sorry. And I know, Ryan, you don't, right? No. Yeah. Well,
no, I barely have time.
Patron. I'm sorry.
I barely have time to run a YouTube channel. I think Patreon would send me over the edge. Maybe someday, but it's enough to keep up with what I've got now.
Yeah. Don't you have to be like, the whole idea is they pays a subscription so that you're a little more responsive, right? That you.
It depends. It's entirely It's entirely dependent on the creator and like what the expectation is. And
Anyway, back to home theater.
Sorry, no one cares about that.
So if you guys have a question about DIY home theater, question of what subwoofers you want to do, question of any of that stuff, let us know. And what we'll do is we'll answer them while we're live on the stream. So I know, for example, Ryan, if you guys are not familiar with Ryan is the creator of one of the most popular DIY home theater speakers of all time. They're called the Elusive 1099s. And if I'm not mistaken, Elusive because they were hard to come by, and 1099 because when you got your taxes, you'd buy them.
Yeah. No, it was because it was 2 woofers and the efficiency was 99 dB.
10-inch woofers, and then the sensitivity afterwards was 99 decibels. So basically the same as Klipsch.
Yeah, with their 6-inch woofers and bass down to 40 hertz.
Yeah. That's anechoic. In room, you're going to get into the 20s.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this before the show with sensitivity. Ryan, 99 is a really good number for sensitivity, and
that's incredibly hard to achieve.
Let's explain to the average viewer what that means, because I think sensitivity in general is a confusing topic. They don't understand, because there's a big difference between a 93 decibel sensitivity speaker and a 99 decibel sensitivity.
Yeah.
Big difference.
6 dB is incredibly big. It's easy to, it seems small. 6 decibels doesn't seem like much, but it's huge.
So what 99 decibel sensitivity means is if we were to give it 1 watt, and typically it's 1 watt. So sometimes it could be, it may not be 1 watt. It might actually be 2 watts based on how they do it. But typically 1 watt at 1 meter. So 3 feet away, 1 watt, that speaker anechoically would play 99 decibels. And typically when we're talking about 99 decibel sensitivity, we're talking about kind of like the midline. We're not talking about the highest peak. So sometimes
you might have plus or minus 3 decibels, which would mean if you take an average through there, you would have 102 dB and then maybe 95 dB, and but it'd be through there, not the top of that wave.
An average would give you the best understanding of what the sensitivity is, and they often do label it average sensitivity over the 20 to 20 kilohertz.
And so there's some major advantages with home theater with high sensitivity drivers, and one of the advantages is that you don't play it very hard to get it very loud. So you're able to, like, if you have a 500 watt speaker, for example, and you only need 1 watt to get it 99 decibels at 3 feet away, then all of a sudden you have all that dynamic headroom that you would need without having to worry about the speaker getting into distortion. And an 88 decibel speaker, for example, will probably, depending on your room size, will probably end up hitting that distortion level before you hit that reference level. Or compression.
Can I go ultra nerd on the sensitivity thing?
No.
Please.
So, like you mentioned, Nick, sensitivity, it's usually 1 watt, but sometimes it's 2. So let me explain that a little bit.
I think that's good.
If efficiency is 1 watt, so it'd be 99 dB at 1 watt. That's the efficiency. But because amplifiers are generally voltage regulated, we measure sensitivity. It's a better way to quantify the how loud a speaker is. So what that means, sensitivity isn't 1 watt, it's 2.83 volts. Okay. And we get that number, we get 2.8 volts because power in wattage is volts squared divided by impedance. So 2.8 times 2.8 is 8, divided by 8 ohms gives you 1 watt. Okay.
So this is where it gets kind of rough, because when you look at the sensitivity of a driver or the sensitivity of a speaker, you have to be very careful if it says 2.83 volts at 1 watt, or if it says 1 watt, 1 meter. Or I'm sorry, 2.83 volts at 1 meter or 1 watt, because of what you're going to say next.
Because for an 8 ohm driver or 8 ohm speaker, that would be 1 watt. Now, manufacturers often love to talk about their 4 ohm drivers or their 4 ohms, or they'll use 4 ohm drivers in their speaker because 2.8 volts squared divided by 4 ohms is 2 watts. So they get an extra watt when they measure their sensitivity on a 4 ohm speaker. So you could have identical speakers, one using 8 ohm drivers, one using 4 ohm drivers, and the 4 ohm driver will be 3 decibels more sensitive. So something like the 1099, which used dual 16 ohm 10-inch woofers, it ended up being a nominal 8 ohm load, was 99 decibels at 1 watt, only 1 watt.
Wow, you got that with 2 16 ohm drivers?
Yeah.
Well,
and
he wired
only
them
10-inch.
Wired them in parallel, yeah.
Sure, but that's still 8 ohms. Wow. I mean, that's
hard to do.
And that's kind of the cool thing with the movie, because when you want that explosion to happen, you want it to be clean and clear. And so when those dynamics hit, two things can happen. One, if you have a driver that's limited in its excursion capabilities, especially if it's already limited in sensitivity, because we'll talk about here in a second, like how much difference in wattage you need. Well, we've already talked about it, 3 decibels, right? So double your wattage goes up 3 decibels.
Yeah.
So a 93 decibel, think about it, to get to 99, well, you have to double it once to get to 96, and you have to double it again. So we're looking at what now? What, 4 watts to get to 99 decibels?
Which still doesn't sound impressive. But now think about when you're driving that 93 decibel speaker with 100 watts and you want to go another 3 decibels, you need 200 watts to do that. And then if you want to go another 3 decibels, you need 400 watts. So it quickly gets out of hand once you reach about that 100 watt range.
And keep in mind, we're talking about 3 feet away.
3 feet away, yeah. So back up a little bit.
Back up 12 feet to your spot. Yeah.
You're down another...
It's 6 decibels every doubling of distance.
Yeah.
Is that right? I'm already forgetful. Yeah.
I can't remember.
It's 6 decibels, I'm pretty sure.
Maybe it's 6. Okay. Either way, the point is with the 99 decibel speaker, now you will also get some room gain and some other things going on too. So we're not going to get into all the details of it. But the point is, the reason why we like high sensitivity in home theater, especially if we're going to DIY it, is because we don't have to worry about the compression of the woofer. Now, the woofer, and that's the thing, if we have an 88 decibel woofer, for example, it might have a large excursion, but the larger you go in that excursion, the more distortion you're typically going to get. Not only that, eventually we're going to get compression. And a lot of people get confused about compression. They think compression means the driver, driver will just kind of stop. That's not how compression works. Compression is frequency dependent, meaning some frequencies will get louder while other frequencies get softer or stay the same. And so that's going to be highly problematic, especially in a movie. And that's why sometimes when you listen to some speakers that claim high sensitivity and all of a sudden you get that real sharp, like hurt in your ear, some of that can be attributed to compression, because the parts that you're thinking you want louder aren't getting any louder. And unfortunately, the parts that you don't want to get louder still are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, something that's related to this, and we all three have home theater designs, and I think one thing that we could certainly say that is in common with all three of them is they're very wide, and that's because we're using large drivers. Large drivers give us a lot of surface area, and that helps make up for the sensitivity that we're kind of talking about. And so that larger driver doesn't have to move or have as much excursion for a given amount of output to equal something like a 6-inch driver if you're using a 12-inch mid-range woofer or mid-woofer, like I think most of our designs use.
It's pretty much the only way to achieve high sensitivity is to go with a large format,
or
audio
just
type driver.
Yeah, or in home audio they'll gang up 6 mid-woofers or something like that.
Sure,
but you really have to get crazy to match what a couple 12-inch drivers can do, and that's why we wind up using them so regularly.
Yeah. 2 6-inch drivers does not equal the single 12-inch.
No, not quite.
Well, that brings us to our first question. So one of my patrons asked this question. He said, hey, I'm building a living room home theater with a hidden SBA. Now, I'm assuming he means single base array. And I'm unsure which drivers would be the better choice. 8 SB Audience Bianco 18 SW450s. Now, those are going to be high efficiency 18-inch woofers, or 16 of Parts Express's GRS 12 SW4 HE. Now, those are the high excursion ones, the ones with the that allow for a much greater throw. What would you guys choose and why?
I'll go first and say I would do the high efficiency woofers because it's far more likely that you're going to be able to get the output out of them with an amplifier that you can buy or that you can afford. I don't know what your budget is, but I mean, trying to power 6 high excursion woofers and actually being able to drive them to their usability, I don't know if you're going to need to spend some money on amplification if that's your goal. Whereas with the high efficiency woofers, a pro audio amplifier would get them cranking.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Generally, when it comes to bass, volume displaced is the name of the game, even with a ported system, but definitely with a sealed system. So it's basically just your SD times your X max. That's your volume displaced. And 18-inch drivers, even half of them, is going to give you much more than 12-inch drivers. I know those 12-inch drivers, I believe, have a little more X max, but it's still just, it can't keep up.
They're definitely doing better in the X max department, but yeah, the surface area I think wins over.
Well, in the surface area can still energize more area as well. But here's the biggest issue that a lot of people don't talk about. First of all, SB Audience is by SB Acoustic. It's their PA brand. Okay, so we already know the quality, and I'm not going to say anything necessarily bad about GRS, but GRS is, well, typically stands for great replacement. Yeah, it's entry level, and SB Audience is nowhere near entry level. No. And your motor system actually does or can have noise to it if it's not necessarily a great subwoofer. Now, I'm not saying that the GRS would, but if I were to make a wild guess of which one would sound cleaner, it would be the SB Audience. Now, I have the SB Audience 21-inch Bianco. Actually, I have 2 of them, and they're amazing. I absolutely love them, and I would never, ever consider going to GRS. I have built some really impressive GRS subwoofers, but even in those videos when I've talked about them, I talk about the motor system. Just it's noisier.
Yeah, I mean, if you order 16 GRS subwoofers, I hate to say this, you might be returning a few of them for a defect if you order that big of a batch at once. That's just probability there. But yeah, I mean, to speak to SB Acoustics, who we're not sponsored by the way, yeah, their pro woofers that I've handled feel amazing. Really heavy baskets, really well built motors. Yeah.
No, actually, if we're going to be serious about whether we're sponsored, if anything, I would actually be more prone to tell you to get the GRS because I'm an affiliate with Parts Express, and I could make a little money. But that's not what this show is about. This show is about being honest. It's not about marketing, right? Like, we don't care about marketing. We want to get you into the right thing. And for me, it's the SB all the way. I am really quickly just trying to figure out, because I am curious, out of curiosity in general, what is the actual volume displacement of these? So if you guys give me just a minute,
sure, yeah,
I will let you know. I'm trying to figure out.
It's a quick math formula. If you have the SD and X max for each driver, you can quickly figure it out, tally it all up, and then I'm going to
tell you right now.
This configuration makes more volume displacement over this one, then that's your winner. I mean, there might be $1.
It's not even going to be close, because the X max, and I don't even have to do the math. I'm not even going to do the math. The X max on the 12-inch subwoofer is 12.5 millimeters, and the X max on the 18 is almost 11.
Oh, really? I didn't think it'd be that close.
Yeah, so it's not even close.
I thought the GRS had about 15 or 16 millimeters. So yeah, the 18s are gonna. I mean, they're going to give you probably 80% more volume displacement. Now, they might cost 200% more. I don't know, but...
And consider using DSP if you're going to be going with the pro audio woofers.
So most he actually said he'd be using ART, which is interesting. ART is a great way to go. That's Dirac ART. By the way, huge fan of Dirac ART. If you guys want to use, I would highly suggest it. I recently put it on my home theater, and it's made a dramatic change. That stands for active room treatment. So instead of having to go and treat your room, especially in the bass range, it uses your own speakers to basically nullify the room voids, and it throws out different waves that would normally be problematic. Now, also uses DSP, really advanced DSP to do that as well, but very cool thing. Now, the active room treatment only works on 500 hertz and down below, and works better below than, you know, up higher. So the longer the wave, the easier it is for direct art to work. But I noticed dramatic improvements. My wife even noticed dramatic improvements. Which is surprising because she doesn't usually care about these things, but she's like, oh yeah, that's.
Or was she like, yeah, honey, it sounds so much better. Thank you.
No, she was more like, wow, that really does sound so much. She was like, and I didn't tell her. I just said, hey, I moved a couple speakers around. You know, I'll listen to it. And she's like, wow, this really does sound better. What did you do? And I was like, secret. I can't tell you.
My wife wouldn't be able to tell, I'm sure.
No, I really think she would. I really do. You know how, because bass,
dude, I'll
bass
put in
gets
totally
so
different speakers.
Oh,
I'll like change out little bookshelf things into like giant towers, and she'll be like, "What'd you do this time?"
let me tell you this. This is a true story. Well, actually, you guys already know this, but I'll tell all the viewers that are watching. I just did a blind test on projectors, 4 completely different projectors. And I did a blind test of 6 random people that don't know anything about projectors. I didn't tell them about them. I didn't tell them anything about them. I gave them score sheets, and I gave them, you know, scenes that would show different things. Like one scene would show shadow detail. One would show, you know, how dark one gets. One would show how colorful, you know, vibrant, things like that. So they could judge it themselves. And then one realistic scene, you know, and all those scenes. And I was surprised. Almost every single person picked the exact same projector as the best projector. And I did not expect 6 random people saying, this is the best. It's interesting when you do that. And I think that if you did DIY versus some of these commercial ones, I think a lot of times the DIY would win.
It'd be obvious. Yeah.
Here's a question. Recently moved to Japan from Australia.
Wow, that's a crazy move.
It is. I have no space for the amazing speakers I built. And even if there was space, I think the subs would destroy my cabinet.
It'd blow
the bamboo. Make them out of bamboo or something?
It'd blow the bamboo across the alley. Man, okay, so Japan, they love their high efficiency speakers. If you guys are into the cafe culture, Japan does nothing but like old vintage Altex. They have a ton of their own like small boutique companies that build big high efficiency speakers. So Japan is down with the hi-fi, but yeah, I don't know that they're that into bass. So yeah, no subwoofers.
You can still build an amazing system with smaller speakers. Like this individual seems to have a space issue. I mean,
just go near field. I mean, at that point, if you're in a small apartment,
get closer. Get closer. Add power. It's not exactly the best way to achieve good dynamic range, but
well, as we've already noticed, sensitivity goes up when the closer you get.
Yeah, big time. Like it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Go for that immersive experience as best you can. Yeah. And you can get some pretty high efficiency out of a small package.
Like you can do bass shakers too.
Yeah. And there's 8-inch high efficiency woofers that you could put into a bookshelf stylus speaker. For subwoofers, go for super high X max, dual opposed.
Yeah, and here's the deal that I would say too: if you're in a position like that, go with 8-inch or 6.5-inch, and realize that most likely you're going to be crossing over between 120 and 80 hertz and be okay with it. Like just realize that those speakers, like that's not going to do anything for you, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, in some cases, that's actually a lot more beneficial because you're not asking those woofers or drivers to do things that they can't do.
Yeah, you're not asking. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say, and the closer you sit, like if you are in kind of a near field, kind of enclosed theater situation, a higher bass crossover is much less detectable.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just as what Nick was saying, you're not asking those mid-woofers to play all the bass and a man's vocal mid-range or a woman's voice. I mean, just imagine all that excursion going on, and you're asking the same driver to play, the lower region of a woman or man's voice. So that's why I think really the whole industry has moved towards crossing over at 80 or 90 hertz. I don't know that anybody really has a problem with that other than like hi-fi purists that want full range and nothing else out of a speaker.
By the way, I was wrong about the subwoofer guy using direct art. I got it confused with someone else that asked a question. So he may not be using direct art. I think he should.
Is he gonna go ported or sealed? Did he say
he
that?
didn't say, and you'd have to double check it, but I'm gonna assume if you're gonna go with a single base array like that, there's no reason not to go sealed. Depending on the room size, and I don't know what room size he has. And I also don't know what. But either way, you could do either one, and you'd be happy with. I think you'd be happy with the Bianco either way. You're gonna have to DSP it though.
He must have like a line on those drivers or something. I don't know why. Like, there's other options. Are they really good value, those Biancos? I don't know.
I think so, because I think the 21-inch were only $500, so these are probably about $350, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure they're good, but you can buy Ultimaxes for that.
Bianco is SB. It's SB Audience is like entry level into their SB Acoustics brand, or SB Audience brand rather.
And I haven't looked at these particular ones, but in general, I mean they're pretty high quality for what they are. So
SB Acoustics has never disappointed me. They're always
I used the Bianco compression driver in my last high efficiency build, and I loved it.
Solon sells them for Matty Sound should sell these. I'm not seeing them.
Oh, it could be where in the world he is. I know
that's true.
Like if you're in Canada or something, then getting certain subwoofers can be a challenge.
But either way, it's usually a good value. So here's a good question, and I think this is a hard question to answer. So I'm going to be really interested in what you guys think, because I have a couple thoughts on this, but I'm going to see what you guys say first. This guy says, hey, I want a set of drivers that would be good for a WMTMW. So a woofer, a mid-range, a tweeter, a mid-range, and a woofer. Okay. And he wants them to be on-wall speakers that are not very deep. And that's going to be the hard part. And I'm going to explain why.
How not deep?
Yeah, he doesn't say, and that's the part that I'm gonna question.
Let's assume the average thickness of a stud or something.
Well, he said on wall, not in wall, thankfully.
Okay.
Very good dispersion, of course, and good directivity, so it can be EQ'd well. But here's the kicker: enough SPL to hit reference at 15 to 20 feet away, and go down to at least 40 to 50 hertz. To blend with subwoofers and be able to contribute with Durac art.
Okay, I've got one.
Okay,
and you all have experience with it, but it is a lot of money. Although I'm enjoying this woofer, it's the Chiari woofer that we've been using. It's a lot of money, and I don't know how often I'll recommend it, but it's got pretty good extension and efficiency for the package, for the size it is. Like if you had two of those,
it's not very deep.
It's not very deep.
It's probably
7 or 8 inches, maybe.
No, it's not. It's not even that. I mean, but you probably want your box to be 7. Yeah, but keep going, and then I'll tell you what I think the big issue is.
The size of the box, maybe.
Oh, I mean, well, 15 to 20 feet away, you're going to need a pretty high efficiency. I don't know.
I know, but how do you do that with good dispersion?
Well, that's the problem. My biggest issue is the compression driver and the horn. That's
the depth of it,
the limiting factor.
Yeah.
For me, that's the limiting factor.
Well, if he's using mids, I don't anticipate he's using a horn.
But so I was looking up drivers for this.
Well, I guess technically he may not. That's true, because if he is using, but once again, you'd still need pretty high efficiency mids.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an issue too, especially when you're trying to. Here's my thought process. First of all, I'm not going to give a complete recommendation on which drivers to get, but I will say this: if you're going 40 to 50 hertz, I'd probably go sealed. and try to get some type of room gain. I don't think you're going to go 40 to 50 hertz, and you don't really have to go 40 to 50 with direct art. I know why. I get why you're saying that, because it can use those speakers to kill those reflections. But you got to remember how long 40 and 50 hertz is. I would probably just use my subwoofers more and be more concerned about the subwoofers canceling out the 40 to 50 hertz bass interaction than I would be concerned with the main drivers, your front 3 drivers doing that. Personally, I don't see that being as beneficial as I think you want, because I think if you're going to stick with, to get 15 or 20 feet away reference level, you're going to need pretty high efficiency.
Yeah, I just looked.
He wants reference level.
Yeah, he wants reference level at 20 feet
at
away.
20. Yeah, so
so I think you're going to have to give or take here. I don't think you're going to get down to, if you go sealed, because here's the thing with direct art though, you can be 18 decibels down and still use it for the art portion of direct art. So that's why I'm saying go sealed, because if you go sealed, you probably can still get that 18 decibels at least to 60, especially if your speakers are good to 80 or so. And so I would probably go more in that range and try that. That's my thought process, but I'd love to hear your guys's.
It's a really difficult goal without using big high efficiency drivers.
Yeah.
And the problem is he has all these criteria, and one of them is the good directivity. And so for your mid-range driver, you're really limited if you want like equal dispersion or just generally wide dispersion. Because I just looked, and the Dayton reference 4-inch mid is 84 dB. So even with 2 of those, you're not.
No, you're definitely going to have to go with some type of high efficiency mid, because otherwise your mid's going to be the limiting factor. I mean, even in the 1099s, you guys use 4 mids, right, to help keep the efficiency up. Isn't that right?
Yeah, the 4 5-inch mids, I think, or something.
Yeah.
Because the mids were the issue. That was the limiting factor, wasn't it?
2 mids.
Oh, was it only 2?
Yeah, it was only 2.
Oh,
but
right.
the 5-inch, and it was a challenge.
You start going with bigger mids and your directivity suffers, or you need to cross over lower, then your tweeter suffers, and you're definitely having to go with a compression driver despite having a 3-way. So there's a lot of challenges there.
Yeah, this is not an easy build. We would need a lot more time to think about what to go. But I think
unless the space is not, like, maybe the depth is not the requirement we think it is. Like if he can go deeper and wider and everything.
No, you can do all kinds of things. You can go with 18-inch woofers and then 10-inch, and then do a 1099 on top of it.
Yeah, it gets really easy if you can grow this thing.
But I was thinking more of a compression driver with a horn, and because he was talking about good dispersion, I was thinking, well, how are we going to, determine that dispersion in the way that he wants? And so I was thinking, well, horn would be the best way to go about that. And that is typically the limiting depth, even on the Cinema 10. The Cinema 10, I love, and people ask, well, can I make it any narrower? And the answer is no. And that thing's only, I think, 10 or 11 inches deep. It's pretty thin. But it's not the woofer that's the issue. It's the compression driver on the horn that's the issue. And that's the smallest I could make it in that form factor. And so you're going to be limited by either a horn, the efficiency of the mid-range, or the 40 to 50 hertz requirement, which, once again, it can be 18 decibels down. So I think you need to be realistic on that. If you're okay realizing that you can be 18 decibels down at 40 to 50 hertz, then this becomes more realistic.
Yeah, or get more realistic about your depth.
Yeah, that's probably...
Yeah. And dispersion and directivity are 2 different terms to me. To me, directivity means it falls off with the angle. Dispersion means it stays consistent across the angle.
So I'm thinking he wants more like a constant directivity horn. So I was thinking more of something like an RCF, constant directivity horn, or something of that nature.
Right.
And so Unknown Spectre, I know exactly who you are, and this is exactly who I thought he was. He's built some of my speakers. He built 621 speakers, and then he built Soundstage 15s, which are some of my favorite speakers. You can't even build them anymore because they don't make the woofer anymore. Oh man, they are so awesome.
That's absurd. Did you live in a warehouse before?
Is there that much room in all of Japan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Look
Something there, I guess.
This is kind of funny. He said, I go to movie theaters to watch films, but the sound there doesn't feel like true hi-fi. It often sounds more like a PA system when I play the same movie audio on my home speakers.
Yeah.
And then he talks about how they're just more refined and detailed. And he's right.
Here's the problem is you're in a gigantic room and you can have the best speakers in the world, but you're in a gigantic room. And so you have decay times and all kinds of reflections going on in there that are just really hard to manage. I mean, that's why every concert you've been to sounds like crap, is because they're in these giant concrete echo chambers, essentially. So theaters, to be fair to them, are limited in that they have to be big. And
well, so he's thinking, and this is probably so he's not using high efficiency drivers. He's talking about whatever his true hi-fi speakers are. This is a different guy. He said they're less efficient and the sound is more refined, detailed, and less harsh. Maybe it's because home audio speakers use better drivers. If you design speakers using professional high efficiency drivers, how will they actually sound compared to home speakers?
Good.
And the truth of the matter is, assuming they were designed correctly, they will sound really good. But we need to also talk about why sometimes when you go to the movie theaters, why they sound PA, and Cameron's talked about that. And, there's also the truth of the matter is that the movie theater's often goal is to make sure that it gets loud enough, not necessarily more than that.
Yeah, they got to reach very far distances. So we're talking like 20 feet in a home theater was kind of blowing our mind, and we were trying to solve that problem. Well, they're dealing with even greater distances, which again, if they're dealing with 40 feet, that's 6 decibels more than our 20-foot scenario. In my home theater, I'm 10 feet away, right? Yeah. And so they're struggling to produce enough SPL, and they also have to be that theater experience. So it's got to be loud and bombastic. And so often that comes with, for those of us who are used to high quality sound, it sounds bad. It sounds really clashy and tinny and whatever else, because they'll leave the peaks and dips in their response. They don't flatten
and they just assume the movie theater company. Yeah, when Klipsch or JBL or someone sells it to them, they sell it to them as a speaker, and then often they'll sell a DSP processor with it. But it's up to the movie theater to implement that correctly. It's not up to them. They don't touch it. And so the frequency response might be all over the place, and they don't care because they're just selling their efficiency.
Or it's going to be pretty good in a lot of seats, right? Yeah. But they're not focused on the sweet spot like we might be at home. Whereas
that's the big part.
Yeah. Whereas with hi-fi drivers SB Acoustics or Morel or any of these ScanSpeak, they're not very efficient usually, and they get very linear frequency response because they coat the cones and things like that, which brings down efficiency and extends bass and flattens out the frequency response, which
it dampens it.
It sounds really good. It does. It's super accurate, linear and everything, but it's not efficient. And so when you turn those up, you're dumping a lot of power through the voice coil and trying to move that cone really hard. And they run into other problems that the pro audio drivers don't at those high powers.
So it depends on how far away you sit and other things. And we've talked about this before as well with a tweeter, like a normal tweeter, like a fabric dome tweeter or whatever. They're usually designed already with some type of
waveguide,
waveguide. Yeah, and it may or may not be a waveguide designed into it. Where a compression driver, you actually have to meet the compression driver with a horn, and those horns are all designed to do something different. And it's really important to know that, because if you buy, for example, a compression driver and you stick it in a horn that's shooting a cannon like this out, which a lot of them do, where they this is the sweet spot and anything over here is not, you're going to have issues. And I've ran into speakers like that. So a lot of people at home theater, what we're using is what we call a constant directivity waveguide or or horn. And what that actually does is when you hook up the compression driver to it, it gives you that more linear off axis response up to a certain degree. Usually it's about 90 degrees is the maximum that you get out of that. Some can go a little bit further than that, but that's about it. But if you're sitting real close in a small room, high efficiency drivers are amazing. And no one's going to say anything worry about that. But if you get high efficiency drivers, now all of a sudden you can fill a room that you couldn't with normal hi-fi drivers. Normal hi-fi drivers are going to hit a spot where all of a sudden they're not doing what you want it to anymore. And that's just the limitations of the technology. There's nothing wrong with that.
And the high efficiency speakers won't have as good a bass. You'll need the subwoofers like badly, and they'll have a more ragged response that the DIYer is going to have to work harder to EQ flat or solve little problems and things like that. Whereas the hi-fi driver, it's going to be much more natural and easy to implement.
Yeah, and just maybe if you were trying to ask like how they sound different, like both these guys have talked about, every horn sounds a little bit different and their applications make them sound different. You get different cancellations and modes within the horn itself and things. Like a Klipsch uses most Klipsch speakers, their heritage stuff uses horns, but those are like exponential horns. Yeah, they're like more like a traditional dome tweeter where the dispersion is kind of all over the place and they're not constant directivity, where a constant directivity horn like my Celestian build, it's got all that beam in a very narrow area on purpose to deliver sound to this wherever you're pointing it at, versus a speaker like a Klipsch or a hi-fi speaker just kind of sending it all out into the room with really wide dispersion at the lower frequencies of a tweeter. And so all my horns sound different from each other. The non-constant directivity horns sound different. And so
I think you said the opposite of what you meant to say, but because like a horn is maybe I misunderstood, but a constant directivity usually has the wider dispersion. That's why people use it in home theater. And something like the first horn,
I did say
like
that.
a high-tech horn, more narrow dispersion.
Yes,
which is why like Klipsch horns are amazing. Like but you put them for one seat. Like you point them at that one person you really want to.
Well, it can do a little more than one seat,
Well,
but it's not going to do a giant commercial theater. Is the point. And the other thing to think about is, like, unlike a dome tweeter on a flat baffle, which just goes like this, a horn, it's going to concentrate the sound, which also means it's not splashing it against the wall and you get all these reflections and stuff. So it's very good for that too, in my opinion. It keeps a lot of that sound energy off the wall. And
I like the idea too of, with a horn, you can actually really cut down on your floor and ceiling reflections, because you can pick a horn that has a much lower directivity, going up and down. You'll still hit your top and bottom row just fine, assuming you're only a 2-row home theater, which most people, that's the maximum they go in a home theater. And so there are definite advantages to going high efficiency. Now, having said that, not everyone should go high efficiency. If you're in a small living room, 10 foot by 10 foot, that maybe high efficiency is not for you. I mean, you could get away with non-high, especially if you don't listen at reference levels. That's
the biggest part about it, is if it's not movie night, you are not, despite what you may think, you're not listening at reference levels like on a regular basis.
Reference is loud.
It's loud and it gets tiresome even with well-balanced speakers to listen as an adult. I don't think many are doing it that often. And so I think, in a small room, even for home theater, a lot of hi-fi speakers, you'll get by just fine.
So earlier, Unknown Spectra had talked about the Soundstage 15s. I designed the Soundstage 15s. They use a 15-inch PA woofer, and they use a compression driver, and they use a horn. And it's a pretty inexpensive horn. It was actually a really inexpensive build. And I had designed these for one of my patrons. They had wanted me to design them for us. All right. And two things I remember. First, when I first turned them on, they were the only two speakers in my living room. And I hooked them up and I unplugged my center speaker and I was playing them and I was like, dang, I screwed up. The center speaker's still playing. And I had to go back there and look, and it wasn't. It just filled up that area so well that I I checked like 3 times to make sure that thing wasn't playing. I was like, nah, it's got to be playing. And it wasn't. And then I sent them to him. I wasn't sure what he would think of them or whatnot. Well, I mean, I knew what I liked them. And he played them and he said, Nick, I was playing these with a friend and we were listening to them and we were loving them. And he said, but I didn't realize how loud they were until I tried to talk to him standing next to me.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that high efficiency speakers can get you that typically your other drivers aren't going to be able to get you, assuming a relatively decent sized room. And that's because when you're playing with those drivers, eventually they're going to hit their distortion limits and they're going to start to distort. And when people think that speakers are loud, most of the time they say it's loud. It's not the actual SPL that's the issue. It's the distortion that they're hearing. And they're hearing that and something in their head saying, that doesn't sound right, turn it down. And so they say, that's loud. When in actuality, it's not necessarily loud. You could be listening to something probably just as loud cleanly and not realize it.
Yeah, that's probably true a lot of the time. It's funny you mentioned that the kind of what you referenced was the center imaging effect you get with really good stereo speakers. And in home theater, you use a center channel. You have a dedicated center channel for, I forget, is it the correlated or decorrelated stuff? But I just got my listening room set back up the other day, and I had those really cheap Bianco home theater speakers set up. And I brought my best friend, who's never, he's my best friend, but he's never come by my place to hear my speakers once. And anyway, I finally drug him in there, and I had this cabinet that's got speaker grill cloth. And anyway, I start playing them for him, and he's like swearing up and down that there's a speaker in the middle. And so anyway, because there's speaker grill cloth on the cabinets, like a electronics cabinet, and I open it up, and his mind was blown that there wasn't a speaker in the center. He said that's where all the sound was coming from. And it's just interesting to see somebody experience that for the first time that hasn't kind of ever experienced, two channel hi-fi. So
I want to ask you guys this. There's another question that someone asked, and I have my opinion on this, but I'm curious what you guys think. This guy is saying, hey, I might want to build some rear surrounds or some Dolby Atmos with these SB Audience Rosso 12CX 350. So they're a coaxial system that's already built in. So the compression driver is built into the woofer. All right. So it's actually here on the bottom. You can see it. And then this dust cap is acoustically transparent. Mm-hmm. So he's like, where should I cross these over between the tweeter and the woofer? Now, we can't give you a definite answer without doing actual measurements, but we'll look at their manufacturer's measurements and then give you an idea. So this one is the woofer, and here's the purple line, which is, I think, on axis or pretty close to it. Yeah, blue is on axis. So this is the blue line on axis right here of the woofer. And then the tweeter is here. So this is the crossover region.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you asking us where we'd cross this over, Nick?
Well, he's asking us that question, yeah.
I can't read what those frequencies are down there at the bottom, but I'd cross it before.
So this is This is 1 kilohertz right here.
Okay.
2 kilohertz, 3 kilohertz.
I'd try like 1.7. Right before that,
a little before 2 kilohertz.
Yeah,
I think that line in between the 1 and the, I think that's actually 1, and then there's a logarithmic 1.5, and then 2 kilohertz.
Oh, you're right. That is 1.5.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
yeah
right.
Then right at 1.5-ish.
Yeah, maybe a little lower. I'd want to look at the compression driver specs, but
yeah, I mean, you're playing that CD pretty low without the distortion measurement to see what's going on that far down.
I want to give you my opinion. I want to see what you guys think. I'm not sure that I would use this driver for this. I think that this would be a really great stage monitor where like we don't care so much about directivity, but in this particular case, like I would be concerned a lot with this first peak right here, your woofer breakup right here. That's at what, 2 kilohertz? It's like 1.7 kilohertz. And then you got this, looks like real big compression driver peak right here at, it's like 700 kilohertz. I mean, gives you a very narrow place to cross over, and you better be doing it steep.
You've got 2 peaks that are going to be having a lot of overlap by the time you go to cross them over. So
You almost have to do at least third order on each. I'm not sure that I would use it personally.
Yeah,
it'd be fun to work with.
It off.
Yeah, I'd like to try. I'd love to have this to play around with, especially with DSP, but even with the passive crossover.
Do they have a 10-inch version?
Yeah, they have it. They do have a 10-inch. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that I would personally. You're definitely going to need to cross over. Probably 1.2 kilohertz would be my guess.
that's where I was thinking 1100, 1200.
Yeah, and I don't think you have much to play around with. Like, I'm not saying that. Yeah, here's the 10CX300. By the way, these ones are going to be deep boxes. Yeah, and so the 10-inch, it looks like a lot more area to work with here. You don't
breakup holds off for a little while.
Yeah, not till like 3 kilohertz, and it looks.
It's not much better.
No, it's not a lot better. I'm not going to.
Yeah. In fact, if
you're probably still looking at 1500 kilohertz.
If you look at the red line, the 60 degrees off axis, the fact that it goes completely mirrored to the on axis tells you that the breakup starts above 2 kilohertz. Basically, you do not want to use that driver. You don't want that thing to be, even in the stop band, it's got to be like 18 dB down at 2 kilohertz.
And I think that's going to be the same issue with the 12-inch as well. And that's why I'm not sure that I would personally use these. I use these for Atmos. Yeah, because you got it's same 2 kilohertz, same basic issue. I don't know.
Lower.
Yeah, a little lower. Yeah, but I'm not sure that I would use them, even though I love these drivers. You got to remember that just because it's a high efficiency driver doesn't mean that we think it's a great driver to use necessarily. And SB audience, I think, is amazing. I love their drivers, but I think in this particular case, these were really more designed for stage monitors, which is what this was really designed for. So I'm not sure if I would use it in the Atmos myself.
There are a lot of compromises they're making with a driver like this to cram both of those things together.
So, in
general, any of these coaxials,
coaxials are always tough. They're always tough, and you have to ignore some of the warts. And usually, when you do, the results are pretty good, actually. And compression drivers usually can be crossed lower than most people give them credit for, in my opinion. And so, I'd want to see how big. What is the diameter of that compression driver diaphragm? Because we all use 1-inch dome tweeters down to 2 kilohertz like all day long, every time.
That's true. With no horn to boost efficiency.
Yeah, exactly. And then the compression driver comes along, and it's a 1-inch exit, and everybody talks about that.
A 3-inch diaphragm.
Yeah, but it's got like the DE250 I like a lot, and I think it's a 1.7-inch diameter diaphragm, something like that, and that's like 3.5 times bigger than a 1-inch dome tweeter.
Yeah,
it's huge. It's like almost a mid-range in there. Like we use 2-inch dome mid-ranges down to 700 hertz without even batting an eye. So,
yeah, but the horn also has where it can load down to as well. So
that's true.
You do have to worry about that too. But I agree with you. In general, though, those compression drivers, their horn is like this tall.
Well, it's got the cone too.
And what? Well, yeah, but I'm saying the actual horn itself going up to the dust cap is only like that. But you're right; it can also go up.
Yeah, that's just like the throw it. The whole horn is the whole 12-inch driver, which it's a terrible horn.
Yeah,
because it's circular and it's got a lot of ridges and everything. But that's the case with any coaxial. They just don't make good horns.
Yeah.
I love coaxials.
Well, except for that 18-inch triaxial from B&C, they actually have a horn that extends out.
Yeah.
That introduces other problems, but yeah,
it does. But you said it doesn't have a good horn.
Yeah.
All right, here's a good question: will large mid-range drivers in a speaker give more feel, chest slam to movies? They say there's no replacement for displacement. Let's talk about what frequencies actually give you the chest slam, because that's going to answer a lot of this question.
People have been chasing chest slam forever. And honestly, The solution is easy
Just
to
to get
tell
married?
you.
Oh,
Huh?
just to get married?
Yeah. It's easy to tell you what you need. It's hard to get it. Every room, like I have measured a lot of rooms, and they all have suckouts between 100 and 300 hertz. Like it's just every domestic room. I'm not talking about theaters. I'm talking about home theaters. They just like destroy from 80 hertz to 300 hertz. I don't know what it is, and that's where your chest slam is. That's where it is.
I'd say above 50 is like what most people actually want when they want that like thump from a door closing, a gunshot or something. It's not the lower bass. Like, yeah, it's in that 50.
Yeah,
80
when I
hertz.
think of chest slam, I think 50 to 80 hertz. And when I think 50 to 80 hertz, no, you're not, the mid range isn't going to be the thing that's going to give that to you. Your subwoofers are. What will help a lot is DSPing your low end. Actually, DSPing 500 hertz and below. DSPing 500 hertz and below is going to make a huge difference because you get a lot of room interaction from 500 hertz and below. It's just the case. And that's why, and once again, not sponsored, that's why I would highly recommend Direct Art if you have a receiver that's capable of it. That does do active room treatment from 500 hertz below, and it can give you whatever bass frequency you want. So if you want that 50 hertz, 80 hertz, like increase in bass, you can actually tell it to give you that. It'll DSP it however you want. Most people, though, when it's actually done right and actually DSP'd properly, and when I say DSP, I'm not talking about just DSP. This actually changes phase alignment as well. So this goes beyond just basic equalization, which is what most people think of when they think of DSP. You get your bass changes completely because you no longer have those long bass decays in your room, which is what oftentimes can kill that.
See, I think chest slam comes a little higher frequency than you guys are suggesting. That's fine. It's just opinion, but
either way, under 500 hertz, Dirk will take care of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I've seen it time and time again where people just like put the 80 hertz crossover on, and if the subwoofer is out of phase with your mains, no amount of DSP will fix that. Although DSP on AVRs is getting very good, and they will change the distance settings and stuff like that, and they will bring those the main speakers and the subwoofer into phase alignment. But you got 3 of them, and that's just your front LCR, and so getting them in time alignment is tough. But if they're out of phase, this is my point. Say there's a gun blast out of your right speaker. Maybe your left speaker's in phase with your subwoofer, but your right speaker isn't, and the gun blast comes from there. And you go, wow, there's no chest slam. But if that subwoofer, if that 80 hertz crossover is out of phase with your subwoofer, there will be 0 dB, right? 180 degrees out of phase is 0. It doesn't matter how loud you turn it up or how much EQ you boost it with.
Or what mid-range you put in.
Yeah.
What?
Or what mid-range you put in your speaker.
Yeah. The mid-range, yeah. To answer the question, the mid-range doesn't fix that. But to fix chest slam, I personally really believe you got to look at that range from 80 to 250, and like it's in my room.
Let's just say 50 to 250, and then it includes everything
50 to 250.
250. Who cares?
I mean, I got a huge hump at 50 hertz, 60 hertz in my room, and I've seen that in a lot of rooms. But tons of suckouts in the I got basically one at 80, and the only way I can get, like, I've changed my crossover from 80, 90 all the way up to 150, and that suckout just follows. My subs are not far from my mains, but just for whatever reason.
And the point, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And you just got to use delay to make those line up. And
it's not just delay, but yeah, you have to work on the phase alignment, and that can be frequency dependent and also seat dependent. So where you're sitting, that can actually change. Like you might get chest slam in one seat and none in another because of the way it's interacting with the room. And that's why I'm a huge believer of, if you're not going to use mini DSP and do that yourself, which most people aren't, you can do that. Then I would highly recommend something like Durac. We've never seen anything quite like this before. We're used to room fixes like Odyssey, which does not do what Durac does. Odyssey does a very basically equalization of your speakers. And there are some versions that do a little bit more than that, but it still doesn't come to the extent of what Direct does. Direct will actually, if you have, let's assume you have at least 2 subwoofers in your room, right? And you have one maybe in each corner. Then it will use the other subwoofer while one is playing to send out cancellation waves at the same time so that you don't have that cancellation, so you get that chest slam back. And so it while still being able to play. And so it can actually analyze your room, and it does. You have to take like 18 or 20 different measurements for it to even know what to do. So you actually need a UMIC 1 in order for it to even work. But yeah, you're going to want something to take care of your phasing and your distancing.
Adam, get a microphone if you don't have one, and measure your seating position and check that, those 2 octaves in there. I would not doubt that you have a lot of missing information, and that's your chest slam.
There's just no room that avoids it. None that I've ever measured.
They all do it. They all do it. I mean, if yours doesn't, you got a magic room. Never move.
Never move. All right, we have time for one more question, then we're going to go, guys. All right, this question is, I'm curious about your thoughts on line array speakers. They're more efficient and can sound very hi-fi, even though they might cost more to build. So obviously they're talking about the line array with like 20 tweeters on the side and 10 mid-range, 15 woofers or mid-range. Yeah.
We've talked about that array from Parts Express several times. I think I bring it up every chance I get because it was like a dream build. This is a technical question. Maybe Ryan should answer the negatives.
Well, let's clarify what a line array is for people that don't know what that is. A line array has a big line of speakers, usually curved, like a CBT is what I think of when I think of a line array. And a CBT is actually curved. I think
it don't have to be.
No, they don't have to be. They can be straight. Dan Keel, I think, was the one that created CBT, and he used the idea of sonar to create it, because in sonar they need to figure out how far away objects were. But if they threw out a signal that went like this out, right, like a normal sound wave, then how do you point out the distances? And so by doing a CBT, they were able to basically allow that sound to travel large distances. And it was kind of part of that. Now you can read a little bit more about it. It's pretty cool if you want to read more about it. But the whole point of the CBT is being able to get the same sound in the front as in the back as far as SPL level as you go further back.
Say that again.
It's allowing you to try to get the same sound in SPL level as you go further back. I mean, you obviously can't.
It doesn't drop off as quickly. Yes.
Right. Yeah. You obviously can't get the same as you go further back, but that's what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, the downside is exactly what he said in his comment. It's just very costly, and there's a space cost there as well. Like most of us evaluate that. You got to be able to put it in your room. If you're using a fixed screen of some kind, like a TV display or a solid screen projector, they don't make very good center channels. So
I think there's a bigger cost than either of you guys are pointing out. Well, 2.
All the resistors.
No. One. No one really makes them. So you're going to be.
Yeah, but you can, right?
Yeah.
This is DIY.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, my point is, like, no one really makes it. So you're going to have to design it and everything.
Right. Yeah.
The second thing is that if you're going with a CBT array, which is the array that I like, it's still patented. So
you can DIY that too, though. No one will know.
Right. Once again, you can DIY it, but my point is you're limited at where you can go buy it. Right. Like you're not going to go buy plans to go build it. So you're limited in that aspect too. Like there's a lot of limitations there going on. I don't think it makes very much sense, but I like line arrays. I think they're cool.
They definitely look cool.
I think the idea is really good. I think there's a lot of upsides. I think they drop off at 3 dB per doubling of distance instead of 6, which is very significant. They're already efficient to begin with because there are so many drivers. So I think, I think they're great. Just man, building them and putting them in a room and paying.
And what
for all those
size do you
drivers.
want? I mean, because
Yeah.
like JBL makes a pretty cool one that Dan Keel actually designed that are small.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. They've got a base, and then they come up on a pole, and they're like that wide, and they're like a foot big.
Yeah,
but then they don't like have the same effect as like a proper floor to ceiling one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the issue with like a CBT is cool because you can get, especially if you have a really long room that you're trying to fill up.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where I see the advantage of a CBT, but that's like the only time I see the advantage of a CBT in what we're talking about.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can get the efficiency. Like, I don't know what else it offers. I think you can get that out of a typical PA, controlled directivity build. In fact, I think there's more advantages to that type of a build than a CBT or a line array.
What kind of build?
Like just a EconoWave type of constant directivity, pro audio, 2-way or 3-way. You know,
get a good 15. Like that's what SoundStage 15 was. It was just a 15-inch woofer signed with a constant directivity horn. I like the EconoWave idea. I don't like the idea of just using the same crossover, which some people try to just reuse the same crossover on all the EconoWaves.
They did?
Yeah, some people do. They try to, but so as long as you're looking at, but the EconoWave is cool because if you go to the website, they'll have a bunch of compression drivers and woofers that I think they've tried and work.
Yeah, the original EconoWave, it started on the Tech Talk forums, and I can't remember the guy's name. He's passed away. He basically he took the that horn. I can't remember what it was. It was
it's
like
the H6512 by Dayton Audio.
That sounds right.
I know it's right because it's the same one I used on.
Yeah, and it's a good horn, and it was cheap. It was like $15 or something. And he just started slapping different woofers and compression drivers on it, and he'd quickly whip up a crossover, post it on the Tech Talk forums, and then people could build these things or tweak them. And so the ones I'm aware of had unique crossovers for unique drivers, but I'm sure people have done things with them since.
The basic premise, though, is you can get a really wide dispersion speaker, I guess, by doing that. Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of doing that, especially if you're more concerned about horizontal than vertical, because the line array is more concerned about vertical directivity, where most home theater, we're concerned a little bit more with horizontal.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's the end of the time we have. But before we go, we always like to tell you guys what we have coming up on our channels. And since we haven't seen you guys for a while, I also want to say I hope you guys all had a great Thanksgiving. Everyone that's watching. Ryan, I know you have some thoughts. So what do you have coming up on your channel? Well, you told us some pretty cool stuff that you were experimenting with. So I'm assuming it's coming up on your channel. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, it is. I didn't think it was exceptional.
Tell us.
I did.
I'm pretty much done my Chiari design. Like I've listened to it for months now, and I like it. So I'll probably put together something. I think I'll share that design. There's nothing exceptional about it, but I'll hand it out there because Chiari did provide those drivers to us. So I'll share that. And then I got the Celestion TSQ 18 something. 18.
Come on, be excited about this. This is cool.
It is okay. This is cool. It's I've now, I don't know if anyone's seen the video about me implementing it into my kid's car. It was sealed. It wasn't even braced. We just got it in there to do some quick testing and stuff. I've now pretty much fully tested it, ported the box, braced it, and put it back in his car. And it is absurdly loud. It is absurdly loud. His whole car is just falling apart. And I've done the cardio thing when I was young, but this is on another level. It's like 140 dB in his cabin. It's just you can't even
An
hear
old
the
man was
music.
walking down the street and just his pacemaker went out.
Oh, it's just insane. You hear him driving everywhere. So I gotta put together a video. I've got kind of like all the B-roll and measurements and stuff to include in the video, but I gotta actually like do some narration. So and put the video together.
And be excited about it.
Yeah, I know. I'm so lame. I should not be a YouTuber.
140 decibels. I was like, holy cow! Like my eyes were popping out of my head. That's crazy.
It's so loud.
Yeah, watching not just the SPL, but watching how flat it went so low in that car, just a sealed box, was really remarkable. I'm so glad you showed
no
that
bracing.
Yeah, with no bracing.
Yeah, I was just like a carcass build just to get us going.
Yeah.
Now it's like tighter, and the ports give it so much more power. It's tuned to like 28 hertz, which was lower than I planned. I was hoping to hit like low 30s. So yeah, I mean, you think
it doesn't sound like it affected you that much.
No, it's so loud.
Nick, how about yourself?
So here's I mentioned this already in the show, but I have a video coming out that's kind of cool. There has been a projector that made over $11 million on Kickstarter. And my question is, if I take 6 random people off the street, don't tell them that there's a Kickstarter projector. Don't tell them anything else. And this projector is like supposedly an industry changer, right? So if it's that industry changing, then 6 random people, if I put them in a room and show them 4 different projectors, they should easily be able to pick it out. That's just right.
You'd think so.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the problem. So the video is putting that to the test. Is this project did this projector actually earn $11 million, or is it like most Kickstarter projects where the hype is more than reality?
Yeah.
I mean, I've got Kickstarter projects before that, like video games, it's not even complete. And then by the time it's actually complete, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like now I don't even want to play the game.
Yeah, it's more the exception to actually go past your hype with a Kickstarter project.
And so I'm not going to tell you if it did or didn't. But I'm going to be very curious. You guys should definitely watch it because it's really interesting. Like it's interesting to see how 6 normal people, if they can even tell a difference between things. Because isn't that kind of the question we always have? Is like, can 6 normal people tell a difference between anything? Like if they're not video connoisseurs, if they're like normal people, can they tell a difference? And I think that's what most people that are buying a television or projector are. They're not the people out there that are taking their meters out and measuring it, which I've done.
Yeah. Yeah, they are normal people, normal consumers, enjoyers of TV.
And I have one more video that might be coming out. I don't know if it's going to come out this week or next week, but it'll definitely come out before we come on. My wife told me that I need to clean up upstairs and make it look nicer for when guests come. Before I had some IKEA Calyx with a projector that, when you turned it on, the projector screen came up. So I did what every normal person would do, or at least normal man would do. And I just decided to buy new furniture for it. And so I'll be going over that and seeing if it actually impresses her or not, or if I'm in deep trouble in the wallet. And
maybe both.
Maybe. I can't tell you, but my back does hurt from sleeping.
Well, very cool. I've got the same 10 squared series subwoofer as Ryan has his 18. I've got the 24-inch version of that. I've got it built. It's set up in my room. I never really talked about it, but I had a listening room that I used in my older videos. I've revamped that. There was some damage. Anyways, it's been fixed.
And it looks great. We've seen it.
Thank you.
It looks really good.
And it's nice just to have it put back together. But in this case, I've actually reupholstered all my big sound panels. And what I never did before was take in-room measurements with and without them and in different places. And I've done that recently, and it's kind of eye-opening, to see what impact those make. There's such still a raging debate on room treatment. The whole time Nick has been talking about room treatment through technology, where this is a very low-tech way, semi-affordable way. And so I'll in my subwoofer video, I'm going to include those because they actually kind of make some impact.
I'm actually excited to see that because the problem with most room treatments in general, like if you buy room treatments, is the depth of them. Because in order to soak up really big waves,
they won't soak up subwoofer waves. I'll tell you that. I'll give that out of the way right now. But it's interesting to see what they do the most for, and given where they are, what kind of changes. So anyway.
And that's why I thought direct art was so good, because it uses active treatment versus physical. I'm excited to see. I'm really excited to see that, because I want to know exactly what that is. Because I actually need to put some in my theater.
Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. We'll see. At least for my specific room, how it works out. But that's what I got coming up.
I want to just say this before we go. Coco Sloan, good question, good point. He says industry changing doesn't mean providing the same quality can mean providing the same quality while being more efficient, cheaper. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be better. True. Good point. And don't worry, we go over all that in the video. So I'll be interested to Coco Sloan. I want you to comment on it. You tell me. I want to hear what you think about this at the end, because I'll be curious. You got to watch the whole thing, because it's really curious to see what people think about each projector, because there's definitely a difference between each one. All right, guys, we're ending before we say anything else. See ya.
Bye, guys.